The most popular sport on Earth is played in 200 countries, followed by 5 billion people. And the country that cares about it the least is hosting its biggest event, America. Where the NFL fills stadiums every Sunday, where basketball and baseball are religion, where soccer is something kids play on Saturday mornings and then forget about. And yet, this summer, 48 nations, 104 matches, and the entire world's attention is landing on American soil. So why here? The answer has nothing to do with soccer and everything to do with money. FIFA didn't pick America by accident. When the vote happened back in 2018, FIFA members chose the North America bid with 134 votes. And the reason they cited wasn't passion for the sport, it was financial and logistical certainty. The stadiums were already here. The hotels were already here. The airports were already here. The corporate sponsorship culture was already here. No new stadiums needed to be built, something that hasn't happened at a World Cup since the US last hosted in 1994. And 1994 matters because that tournament, also hosted in the US, is still considered the most successful World Cup ever by attendance. 2026 is essentially that, but 3 times bigger. Now contrast that with what other countries go through to host this thing. Qatar spent $220 billion preparing for 2022. They built stadiums from scratch in the desert. They constructed entire cities. $222 billion for one tournament. Brazil spent nearly $1 billion on a single stadium for the 2014 World Cup. Today, it's a bus depot. South Africa demolished 2 stadiums after 2010 just to stop paying maintenance costs. America doesn't have that problem because when the tournament ends, the NFL moves back in. And here's something FIFA doesn't advertise. Every stadium hosting a World Cup match becomes a tax-free zone. FIFA and its sponsors pay 0 taxes on revenue generated inside those venues. 0. The host country provides the infrastructure, the security, the logistics, and hands FIFA a tax-free environment on top of it. So when you hear the revenue numbers that are coming, keep that in mind. America wasn't chosen because it loves soccer. It was chosen because it's the most efficient money-making machine on the planet, and it already proved it once. FIFA is projected to generate $9 billion in revenue from this tournament alone. $9 billion. That's a 56% increase over the Qatar World Cup in 2022. Broadcasting rights in the US alone rose 94% compared to 2022. And US headquartered brands like Coca-Cola, Visa, and Adidas now account for 52% of all World Cup sponsorship revenue, up from 36% last tournament. Remember, all of that revenue generated inside those venues, tax-free. And then, there's the tickets. Prices changing hourly based on supply and demand. Something Americans are used to. Think airline tickets, hotel rates, Uber surge pricing. But for international soccer fans, this was a shock. One fan paid $446 for a ticket. On resale, it was going for $22,316. That is not a typo. FIFA also set up its own official resale platform, taking a commission from both the buyer and the seller. They monetized the resale market itself. Qatar spent $220 billion and got roughly $17 billion back in economic impact, a return of less than 10 cents on every dollar spent. As for the US projected return on investment for this World Cup, 7.3 times, the highest of any World Cup in modern history. The tournament is projected to generate $30.5 billion in total economic output in the US alone, boost GDP by $17.2 billion, and support 185,000 jobs. 3 Super Bowls a day, 4 a month. That's how Infantino described it to Trump, and Trump loved it. But before we go any further, let's talk about how this relationship actually works, because it's weirder than it looks and more calculated than you think. Before the biggest soccer tournament on earth kicked off this summer, the president of FIFA did something unusual. He flew to Mar-a-Lago. He went to the White House multiple times. He attended a presidential inauguration. He opened a FIFA office in Trump Tower. And then, at the official World Cup draw ceremony in December, he invented a brand new award, called it the FIFA Peace Prize, and gave the very first one to Donald Trump. Trump called it, quote, one of the great honors of my life. And who knows, some people believe that kind of flattery may have helped smooth the path for Iran to participate in the tournament. Despite the US having just fought a war with Iran months earlier, Iran is playing in this World Cup. Now, you could look at all of that and think, that's just politics. Two powerful men scratching each other's backs, but that's not what that is. Infantino didn't cozy up to Trump because he likes him. He did it because he needed him. Think about what FIFA was actually worried about. You're about to bring millions of international tourists into a country run by an administration with the world's most restrictive immigration posture. You need visas processed. You need travel bans navigated. You need federal coordination across a dozen agencies in 16 cities. Without White House cooperation, this tournament becomes a logistical nightmare. So Infantino went to work. He attended the inauguration. He visited Mar-a-Lago. He opened a FIFA office in Trump Tower. And when he needed a grand gesture, he invented a peace prize and handed it to the man who controls the visa system his tournament depends on. And it worked. The White House created a dedicated World Cup task force, chaired by the president himself. They created a FIFA priority appointment scheduling system, a fast-track visa process for ticket holders. They waived visa bond fees of up to $15,000 that had been threatening to keep international fans away. That peace prize wasn't a prize, it was a receipt. But here's where it gets genuinely absurd. The same administration that fast-tracked visas for World Cup fans also has a travel ban covering 39 countries. Fans from those nations largely cannot attend games in the US portion of the tournament. Groups of thousands of fans have signed petitions saying they've attended every World Cup for the last 20 years, but they're not coming to this one. The same president who called hosting the World Cup a great honor imposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and 35% tariffs on Canada, his two co-hosts. And when someone asked Trump how the World Cup would work given all the tension with all the co-hosts, he said, "I think it's going to make it more exciting. Tension's a good thing." 3 countries that are actively in a trade war are co-hosting the world's most unifying sporting event. And here's the detail almost nobody is talking about. The USMCA, the trade agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico, comes up for its mandatory review in July, during the tournament, while all 3 leaders are in the same room watching soccer. The opening game is in Mexico City, the final is in New Jersey, and somewhere in between, 3 nations that are economically at war with each other have to smile for the cameras and pretend the beautiful game unites them. Now here's what all of this means for your wallet, because the World Cup isn't just a sports story, it's a live economic event happening in American cities right now, and the reality on the ground is more complicated than the projection suggests. 1. If you're in or near a host city, your costs of living temporarily spiked, but not everyone is winning. Hotels in host cities were projecting a massive boom. The reality, just days before kickoff, 80% of hotels in host markets reported bookings running below expectations. Hotels that reserved large blocks of rooms years ago have been releasing them back to the market because the expected fan rush never came. High ticket prices, visa challenges, and the overall cost of attending kept millions of international visitors home. The fans who did come largely went to Airbnb instead. Short-term rental hosts near stadiums are fully booked. Guests traveling from as far as Australia and Japan. Airbnb is winning. Traditional hotels are scrambling. 2. There's still a real opportunity if you're positioned right. Airbnb hosts, tour hosts, anyone with a short-term rental near a host city. Demand is concentrated and extraordinary. If you have an asset you can rent out, this is one of the highest earning windows of the year. 3. Watch what this does to the broader economy after it ends. Looking at costs and revenues from 14 past World Cups, nearly every host nation lost money. Russia was the only exception. The short-term spending spike is real. The long-term economic boost is almost always overstated. Host cities almost always experience a hangover after major tournaments. Local businesses that hired extra staff have to cut back. The $17 billion GDP boost is real, but it's also temporary. The World Cup will have a winner on the pitch, but some of its financial winners and losers won't be clear until the final whistle blows. Now here's what I want you to take away. The FIFA president didn't fly to Mar-a-Lago because he loves America. He flew there because America is the most profitable place on earth to hold a sporting event. The stadiums, the sponsors, the TV money, everything's already here. FIFA runs the world's most popular sport, but at its core, it's a finance operation that uses soccer as the product. America turns 250 this year, and it's celebrating by hosting the entire world at a sport it doesn't fully understand yet and making more money from it than any nation ever has. That's not irony, that's America. The game is just the beginning. Follow the money and you'll always find the real story. Subscribe to Aceonomics. I'll see you in the next one.